Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. For those who don't know, the Medicines for Malaria Venture, we're a not-for-profit organisation that exists to discover, develop and then deliver new anti-malarial drugs. We're a virtual R&D organisation, so all of our work is done with partners. So there's lots of interesting stories to tell about our drug discovery activities, but today I'd like to focus on those particular open access projects that we have. And of course, there's different degrees of openness, and I guess that the first that you can think about is what we call open innovation, where this is more where projects or people agree to collaborate over a particular project, sharing information, and that's the way most of our standard projects work. But then you can go further and talk about open access, where you're actually sharing information, papers or compounds, and I'll spend the bulk of my talk discussing two projects we have there, the Malaria Box and Pathogen Box projects. But we have other open source projects I won't have time to talk about today. So we have a collaboration with Lilly to test compounds that are submitted through there. And we have a truly open source drug discovery project with Matt Todd. So this is an experiment where everything is done in the open. All decisions are made public. Anyone can contribute and make suggestions. And I guess really what we're trying to explore here is, are there different and new ways of doing drug discovery? And I thought I'd just show an example of this open innovation. And we really think of this as sort of collaborating within a walled garden. So it's secret to the outside world, but we share information internally. And this is a project from the University of Dundee that Alan Fairlamb talked about last year, which led to the discovery of this really exciting clinical candidate that's now in development with Merck. Has activity across the life cycle. That's why it's of particular interest to us. But I thought I'd just share here. So the chemistry, biology and DMPK was done at the DDU in collaboration with MMV. But I just listed the other partners, so academic groups who came in and worked and collaborated on this project, showing how we're trying to minimize duplication and maximize how we can actually apply the effort. So let's move on to talk about some of the box projects we've run, and this is where we distribute sets of compounds to try and stimulate neglected disease research. And first one was the Malaria Box. So this was a collection of 400 compounds that have activity against blood stage malaria. And this project ran for about 4 years, and in that time we gave away about 250 copies of the box. So it's simple to request. There's no real terms and conditions. We supply it free. In return, the recipients have to agree to put their data back into the public domain. You can see on the map the sort of geographical location that boxes went to. And although they're malaria actives, about a third of the people who requested them didn't do malaria screens. So about 500 assays plus were run. It's been fairly successful. I think we've got over 37 publications to date. A lot of the data has gone into Kemble, and we're drawing up a large paper at the moment, trying to get the data out there. So what are the achievements and lessons of this project? And I think it was successful in terms of new projects did start both in malaria and in other diseases. And I've listed at the bottom of the screen two people who actually got separate funding to continue their work. We also did biological work, so target identification on the projects. When we looked at what people had done with the box, about a third of the people have published their data. A third got data, but it wasn't good enough quality or wasn't exciting enough to get it into a paper. So there we encouraged them to get it into Kemble or into this paper. And about a third of them just stuck it in the freezer and never used it again. And there may be legitimate reasons for that. So I think it was successful in really building a network of like-minded groups. And it showed there was a real interest for people to test these compounds, but also that a lot of them did need some mentoring and help. They were perhaps interested in drug discovery, but didn't have that background. And we actually generated DMPK data on the whole box, and to be able to provide that enabled people to move the compounds forward more quickly. I think some of the lessons were that actually getting people to screen and then share the results does require active management and really following up with people. And really, people only are keen to share their data if they can see other people sharing their data. So building that community and commitment to sharing is important. And we did encourage multiple testing of the compound against particular pathogens, and I think that was very useful. Different screens get different hits, and that really brought new things forwards. So based on that, we launched our second project, which was the Pathogen Box project. And again, this was similar to the Malaria Box. It's a collection of 400 compounds that are active against one of the neglected diseases shown on the right-hand panel. Again, this was really a partnership project, so MMV worked with a lot of expert PDPs to really assemble the compound. And it's the same rules. It's distributed free on request as long as the recipient agrees to publish their results. And what we're really trying to do here is stimulate new neglected disease drug discovery. The project's funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we actually went live and launched the box mid-December. You can see at the bottom of the screen, if anyone's interested in requesting it, there's the website. Here's the composition of the box. You can see the majority of the compounds come are TB and malaria active, but we do cover most of the other neglected disease spaces. In some of the cases like dengue or crypto, where there are very few compounds, that's really just the dearth of leads that are out there in the public domain to use. So what's next for this project? As well as the Gates funding, we also have WHO funding for a partner project exploiting the Pathogen Box. And we've shipped over 70 copies of the Pathogen Box in the first 3 months, and groups are already coming back to us with hits. Now, as part of that WHO-funded project, we actually have money to do some hit-to-lead chemistry around the individual compounds in the box, and we're doing that with scientists in neglected disease areas. So you can see within India, Brazil, and Ghana. And really that's to make a small set of compounds. So if people come back with hits, then we can share those with them so they can actually test them and allow them to move things on. There's also work under this grant to look at the mode of action of the compounds that are in the box. And we really want to try and do some help with capacity building. So we've launched some some grants for scientists in endemic countries who can actually then receive money to allow them to screen the box. And coupled with this, we're running a workshop in Mauritius where they'll be brought together. And it's great to be in London today. I wish I'd drawn the straw perhaps for Mauritius rather than the London conference. But the compounds that have gone into the box have been primarily compounds that we took from the literature, but we want to try and enrich the diversity of compounds by finding new screening hits. So we've purchased libraries of compounds. So you can see a 500,000 library about 5 years ago and 250,000 in 2014. We bought those to screen against malaria, to find malaria hits, but we also then shared them with our partners so they could screen them and find other hits. And you can see in green that some of those compounds from this screening exercise that our partners ran actually went into the Pathogen Box. And there's a wide set of other groups that are in the process of screening. And again, people, as a condition for receiving them, will put this data into the public domain so it's available for the whole community to exploit. I'd just like to finish by mentioning a new project that's really just in the planning stage that we're working in partnership with DNDi, which we're calling the Pandemic Response Box. And the idea here is to assemble a collection of compounds that could potentially have activity against pandemic fevers. Perhaps we're too slow for the recent outbreaks of Zika, etc. But unfortunately, there seems to be a wave of these coming forward. So it'll be 400 compounds. We don't have funding for this yet, but we're still seeking funding, but they'll have antiviral or antibacterial activity, and they'll be made up either of known compounds with activity, either from marketed drugs or from literature compounds. And again, we're going to supplement this with extra screening activities. And the US Army actually will screen compounds against viruses for you for free and put the data in the public domain. So we've got some top-up screening going on against those diseases. And we're really actively seeking ideas for scaffolds here, so if anyone has ideas, we'd be very welcome to hear them. So really, I hope that's given you a whistle-stop tour through. We're really trying to, as I say, stimulate new neglected disease activity here. There's far too many partners to actually thank, but I'd like to publicly acknowledge, the excellent contribution from all the screeners and partners who've really helped make this possible. So thank you for your time.